Immigration is currently one of the hottest topics across the world, sparking a global debate about how countries should handle the influx of legal and illegal immigrants. Some countries like Germany and Sweden have opened up their borders, while other countries like the United States have begun closing theirs. But with over 65 million people fleeing from wars and natural disasters, we wanted to look at some of the legal ways people have immigrated to the United States in the past. Hey guys, I'm Judah, this is NowThis World, and today we're going to talk about the differences between temporary protected status and refugee status, which are two legal ways that people can gain legal status in the US when escaping crisis in their homeland. It's important to know the differences between these humanitarian categories because someone's status can determine how long they can legally stay in the US. Let's start with temporary protected status. Most recently, temporary protected status, or TPS, made headlines when the White House announced it would be stripping provisional residency permits away from roughly 200,000 Salvadorans, 59,000 Haitians, and 2,500 Nicaraguans. These are only 3 of the 10 countries currently designated in this program. Under TPS, foreign nationals are allowed to temporarily stay in the US if the Secretary of Homeland Security finds that conditions in their home country, such as wars, environmental disasters, and epidemics, would pose a threat to their safety if they were to return. In other words, in order to be eligible for TPS, you have to be a citizen of one of these countries on the list, and you must be escaping horrendous conditions in your country. In other cases, you may also be eligible if you're nationless, but last resided in one of the countries on the list. This status is reserved for those already in the States, whether legally or illegally. But it's important to know that this status by itself is not a path to permanent residency in the US, nor does it last forever, as the name implies. The federal government continues to monitor conditions in the country and decide if the country should stay on the list. Some people have been in the US under protected status for over 20 years. But in cases like El Salvador, TPS was stripped for Salvadorans after the Secretary of Homeland Security determined that, quote, original conditions caused by the 2001 earthquakes no longer exist. So that's TPS in a nutshell. Let's go on to another immigration status, being a refugee. In the United States, refugee status is a form of protection that's granted to foreign nationals that can demonstrate that they've been, quote, persecuted or fear they will be persecuted on the account of race, religion, nationality, and/or membership in a particular social group or political opinion. That's a key difference between TPS and refugee status. Where one concentrates on temporary conditions in a region, the other concentrates on long-term conditions that foreign citizens may face. For example, in 2014, the United States has granted refugee status to nearly 50,000 people from Myanmar who have been escaping conflict and religious persecution. Another difference between refugee status and TPS is that in order to qualify as a refugee in the US, you must be outside of the country while attempting to gain this status. Meaning, this designation is not for those already in the country. But if you're already inside the United States or are at a port of entry in the US, and you meet the definition of a refugee, you can apply for what's called asylum. Asylum seekers are essentially refugees that apply for protected status once they've already arrived in the US. According to the Department of Homeland Security, in 2016, the most recent numbers available, the majority of people who were granted asylum in the US were from China. The biggest difference between TPS and refugee status is that there is a path to citizenship for refugees and even asylum seekers. Citizens from one of the countries I mentioned earlier, El Salvador, will no longer have temporary protected status starting in 2019, but conditions in the country are still very dangerous. But why? Find out in this video to the right. Thanks for watching NowThis World, and please don't forget to like and subscribe for more every week.